Hi there. I'm trying to promote in this video the idea of being able to build your own model aircraft, be it from a kit or from a plan. Okay, but why even bother? Why bother to go out and buy a kit or build from a plan when it's so easy these days to go and buy an ARTF model aircraft, 2 or 3 evenings work, and you can go and fly and have some fun. Well, the fun kind of stops when you damage your ARTF model aircraft and you don't have the skills or the knowledge or the know-how to be able to fix it. Now, I've seen some awful patch-up jobs with gaffer tape, sticky black plastic. The worst offence for me is sellotape. Sellotape on a model aircraft is just horrible. I've seen all of these, and they hide the underlying damage that is perhaps at first sight not readily noticeable. Okay, my own personal experience a couple of years back was with my Mini Hype. Okay, right, I bought this in about 2010, and anybody who's got a Mini Hype will be able to see, and those with a keen eye, that the tailplane doesn't exactly match the rest of the aircraft. Okay, it's yellow, but the stripes, it doesn't have stripes. So what happened here then? Alright, a couple of seasons ago I was practicing the blender. I got a bit carried away, a couple of vicious blenders. On one pull out, the tailplane in the air snapped, both sides. The bits were held on to the aircraft in flight by the pull cable, and as luck would have it, it kind of landed on its wheels, bouncing from wingtip to wingtip. No skill on my part whatsoever because I didn't have elevator, but because I've been building quite a while now, quite a number of years from plans and kits, I kept the bits and took the covering off, traced around the bits, drew myself a new plan just for the tailplane, built a new one, but this time incorporating a pine spar that runs from edge to edge. If this gives out in the air now, well, the rest of the plane is just matchwood. Okay, so there's one way of an example of being able to fix an ARTF model aircraft yourself. Alright, in front of us here now we have the classic Super 60 by Keelcraft. Absolute classic design. I think for myself personally, from the early 60s when it was out, it's on the same category as the E-Type Jaguar or the film Zulu. Timeless, absolute classic. I've got a book here. Okay, Radio Control Manual. This was an ex-library book in the UK, and it was first taken out in 1963. So roughly at the same time. I actually think that the Super 60 was out in '62. So not far off. Let's have a look what it says. Get a Keelcraft Super for successful radio control. Super 60. £5. 9 shillings and 11 pence. Wow, you'd be lucky to get a glow plug for these for that price these days. But inflation aside, if you want to get yourself flying one of these models, then sadly the Keelcraft company is no longer in operation. It finished quite a number of years ago. But you can go onto the internet, onto a site called OuterZone. It's run by a guy called Steve in the UK, and he's compiled a free downloadable plans for model aircraft, okay, past model aircraft, be it from kits or past plans that are no longer in circulation. And the Keelcraft Super 60 is one of these plans. The other way of getting yourself a Super 60, and I have to say now that I have no financial or personal connection with the Ben Buckle kits, but I went onto the internet a couple of days ago and I found that you can get yourself a Super 60 from Mr. Ben Buckle's kits, £83.95. Excellent value for money. Okay, I'd also like to say that this video for me is a acknowledgement and personal tribute to the late great David Boddington, who without his genius in his model designs, books, writing, articles, my modelling hobby would have been very much lacking, as I'm sure that many other modelers would as well. Okay, Mr. Boddington, he did not design this kit. It was designed by an E.J. Webster from the Keelcraft company, Mr. Eddie Keel's company. But what Mr. Boddington did was he had the foresight to scale up and scale down the classic lines. Okay, this is one of Mr. Boddington's Mini Super 45-inch wingspan version of the classic Keelcraft Super 60. Okay, this is another one, 94-inch wingspan for 60 to 100 engines. Wow, look at that, that's a monster. I think this was actually built by a gentleman in South Africa. Okay, in a previous video I spoke about how this year I built for a second time via a plan that I obtained from the Outerzone site, Keelcraft Radiant, that I'd first built from a Keelcraft original kit back in the late 70s as a young teenager. Now I did a similar thing last year with another model, and this is the model in question. Another design by Mr. Boddington, the Bi-Mini, half-size biplane version of the Keelcraft Super 60. So it doesn't take too much working out that that is half-size, okay, exactly to the Super 60. Now this here is the model that I built probably back in 1991, 1992, something like that. Okay, this is this uncovered. Okay, this is red nylon doped. Yeah, I was big into finishing authentically the models back then. Nice little Paul diesel, and the Paul diesel is here. Okay, I'm sure that many of you, or quite a few of you, will have heard about this Paul model engines. Okay, British made in the UK. This is a lovely little engine. I live in Greece now and I can't get hold of diesel fuel, and I also did the same thing when I was a lot younger. I brewed my own, really easy. 3 parts of different ingredients. Okay, 1 part paraffin or kerosene, much the same thing, 1 part castor oil and 1 part ether. I couldn't get hold of the amyl nitrate, the anti-knocking agent, but I've heard that a drop of petrol does exactly the same thing. I've had 3 different types of engine run on that brew. Pour, when I was a lot younger, I had a DC Sabre. You remember that? DC Sabres? And I've also bought in Greece off a market stall new a Russian diesel engine, and they all worked fine on that brew. So I'll show you the model that I actually built this year. Sorry, last year, not this year. Okay, here it is. Gives you some idea. That's the half-scale, half-size Super 60 biplane. All right. I didn't go the diesel route this time. Nice little AP 061. All right. Glow engine this time. If anything, the size of the tank, where the tank can go, it gives a bit of a shorter engine run, because it's a little bit thirstier than a diesel. It also flies this model quite a bit quicker than the diesel ever did. You have to have your wits about you. I fly Spectrum these days, and I don't know if you can see inside there. I've got a little clone receiver. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. All my other receivers are tied up in other models. They are Spectrum's own or Orange. This was cheap as chips off the internet. I found it. I've had no problems to date. So okay, yeah, right. Well, that's the model. Okay. The other thing that I'd like to say is that Mr. Boddington, he thought of modelers who are probably just about to start building from plans, and this is a Tyro. All right, I built 2 of these. One when I was a lot younger, and one about 2 or 3 years ago. Super plain if you were thinking about starting to build models from plans. The thing with Mr. Boddington's designs is, after a certain number of years, you get to recognize his work. Okay, there's nothing to catch you out. Now, I've built quite a few models by other designers, and it's not straight away noticeable that when you see something on the plan, when you turn it into the real world, 3-dimensional, there may be bits missing or gaps, and perhaps the modeler, when he was building it, he just stuck pieces of wood there or just covered it over. But there's no guesswork. You don't need a crystal ball when you build from Mr. Boddington's designs. The other one that I built two of, okay, this one here, the Apprentice. Okay, it's like Power Pod glider. I wouldn't say it's exactly a glider because I think that the wingspan is probably a bit too short for, a bit too small for a full-on glider. But yeah, it's super little model. This another one that you could probably start very easily. One thing about building your own models, well, there are two things really. For me, it's accuracy and correct usage of glue. Okay, when you start cutting the bits out, it's the accuracy of the fit. Okay, I did a mechanical engineering when I was a lot younger. Did a mechanical engineering apprenticeship, and one of my foremen told me it's the actual fit that matters, not so much the actual size. Okay, as long as you don't go way off the actual design. Correct usage of glue. What do I mean by that? Okay, that's another twofold thing. Once you've decided what glue you're going to use, all right, correct application. If you are of a mind where if you're going to glue two pieces of wood together at a right angle and then you glue it and pin it, and then once it's kind of set or halfway set, you run a fat bead of white glue down the joint just to make sure, that's disaster. You're heading for disaster. The glue, if you can see it, has no strength whatsoever. So sparingly, but enough to hold the joints together. And the last thing that I'd like to say is I've got some photographs here. When I was 17, still living at home, okay, I built this model. It's a Newport, I think it's Newport 17. It's one of Mr. David Boddington's, and not so much the skill on my part, because you know, for a 17-year-old to be able to do this, I'm not trying to, you know, say that I was so skillful, because I perhaps wasn't. But it was through the design, the superb design of this aircraft, that I managed to build it. I probably took over a year. It was, for me, like I said, still living at home, pre-marriage, pre-kids, pre-mortgage, pre-everything, okay. Covered it in Solatex, spray painted it with car paint, and then fuel proofed it. Had a bit of a sad end, this model. I didn't crash it. I moved house and I sold it at the local auction room, and I do sometimes still regret that, because I think that this is my, of all the models that I've ever built, this is the one that I still fondly remember. Okay then, I'll just like to leave it at that. Thanks for watching.